Hi, every morning. This is the third time you will see this line. I have been trying to fight it the last two videos, and so you're just gonna have to put up with it. I apologize. It's driving me nuts. It's really bad this morning. Good morning. It's Saturday. Hi. How is everyone doing? I'll stand back here so it doesn't hit my face. It's like, oh my God. This is like Saturday. It's supposed to be relaxing and everything. And I'm just sitting here in my nightgown and my robe and drinking my coffee. And my other video, so I'm gonna have to stand back here because it'll just put this line on my face. This shout out to GABA Calm that helped me to sleep. Yay! I finally got this replenished. It was great. It's probably going to be coming up. But my bedroom is on the side of the sunrise, so I always have that. I guess I should probably figure out how to not do these videos in the morning or have a better situation. But of course, this is how I roll, right? I'm not going to be your professional, even though I have a communications degree and I did videography and everything. Um, it's just how I roll. I have ADHD. It's too. I'm gonna have to keep shifting. I have to keep shifting. So the sun does not go like this across my face, which is really annoying for me and you. Anyway, so you'll see me adjusting this. Oh boy, yeah. I'm like, I can tell that I'm really a Oh, now I've got this other thing. What is going on today? Oh my God, this is so annoying. Anyway, yeah, so I don't roll I'm not providing content this is a blog. This is a vlog. So anyway. So let's see if this um, works a little bit better. It's going to be blurry. There we go. There we go. So I can lean back a little bit. Anyway, and watch as the sun creeps slowly up over my face. Anyway, so I've spent 2 minutes talking about the sun. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well today. And I just had some ideas, if I can remember them now, with regards to just kind of the craziness. So I wake up, and one of the first things I like to do on Saturday morning is watch Bill Maher. I love Bill Maher. I think he's great. I think he's very sensible. And he was doing a little bit about the craziness about the GOP, which down here in the United States, yeah, they are utterly off the rails. He was talking specifically about this guy named Herschel Walker. It's just crazy. Like he's a la Trump part two. He's very just I don't know. And Bill Maher was talking about how the GOP, the Republicans in the United States, are reacting to the craziness on the far left. Okay. And that they're saying that this is so bad that we'll put up any crazy person to run against these liberal politics. Now, I want to reiterate, I am very liberal, okay? I'm not just saying that. I know people say, oh, you're just saying that. I'm not. I'm very liberal. I've always been very liberal. I mean, one of my first things that I did, I protested against apartheid downtown when I was a senior in high school. I've done a lot of stuff. I mean, I've always been very active in politics and social justice causes and the whole nine yards. I've always been that way. And so I'm just definitely liberal. Okay, just trust me. And anybody that knows me would know. I mean, I voted for Ralph Nader, which that'll shoot arrows at me. I've been supporter of Dennis Kucinich, who back in 2004, I worked on his presidential campaign. He was promoter of the Peace Department, all nine yards. Anyway, that's beside the point, kind of. So I have dual citizenship to Canada. And right now they're having elections too, and they are talking a lot about Justin Trudeau. And I have somewhat, she's in her 80s, but she's very liberal. She's a cousin of mine. We talk all the time. And she hated Trump too. She's very liberal and she's very, very well read. She told me that for the first time, she's actually voting conservative. Yikes. So what is going on here? I mean, we have the same situation going on up in Canada as we have had down in the United States. We've had people that I was like, why are you voting for Trump? And I'm not saying that I don't agree. Like, I mean, Trump was just a disaster. He has been a horrific horror show that it's like sticky gum we cannot get off our shoe. I mean, the man just keeps, all of these January 6th things and the whole Mar-a-Lago top secret documents he had taken. It's just crazy. It's just like, if you or I had we would have never gotten hired for a job if we had acted like Trump had acted. But this is like, it's just insanity. I mean, and I really believe that a large part of this problem is because of the media, quite frankly. I don't watch the news typically. I scan through some headlines just to kind of get some situational awareness, because I do know that the media news is designed to basically manipulate. The amount of propaganda and the amount of just utter manipulation and insanity any news media puts out is just crazy, including all of your YouTube channels like myself. I mean, I've scanned through and there's all these websites. I'm like, I've never heard of this news website. What is this news website? Russia could be putting up all these news websites. China could be putting up all these news websites. The US, I mean, everybody's got their agenda and they're putting up their stuff to be very sensationalistic and very hyperbole. So I get it. What is truth? How do we know that what we're seeing is the truth? Other than just utter, craziness. And it's hard. It's very hard. I have been studying for many years because it's something that you have to do. Sorry, the sun is really getting bright right now. About how to think critically. We need critical thinkers. Yes, we do. But do people even really understand what that entails? I don't think that they do. Critical thinking is more than just saying you're a critical thinker. It's about understanding things such as logical fallacies, understanding how an argument goes, how you can understand the fallacies in a person's argument, how to think critically, how to get your emotionality out of your argument or discussion. And the emotional part is such a tactic that is used. It's like this, let's trigger people, let's get people, their emotions engaged, their anger engaged, their outrage engaged, and it's a tactic that's well worn and well used over and over and over and over again. Wondering if this will help. And it's a problem, and we need to be more aware of it. We say that we're aware of it. We say that we want to be critical thinkers and understanding what's going on in the world, but I don't think that we do. And I remember there was an incident, sorry, I should enunciate better. An incident like back in 2016, I think. It was the Covington Catholic students who were doing a pro-life march. I hate using the word pro-life. I'm very, very pro-choice. But they were doing their pro-life march in Washington. And it was all over the news. I'm going to have to come back here. It's really bright today. It's like I'm trying to find it so it doesn't cast a light on my face. So you can see how bright this is. Anyway, what I was saying is that it was the one where you saw the picture with the MAGA hat kid against a Native American elder. Great shot, right? It was like, oh my God, look at these horrible, Trump supporting conservative right-wing kids and their MAGA hats and this Native American elder. And I mean, the media went nuts for that, right? God, that is really bothering me. I apologize today. This is incredibly bad. It's a beautiful day out, and yet it's ruining. I should probably, it's not usually this bad anyway. So, what I was saying. So, it was all over the news. And so I was watching a lot of the footage at the time. And I mean, there were several hours of footage, right? And what they didn't show, what the media did not really show at the time, was that there's a group called the Black Hebrew Israelites, and they were on the mall as well, or wherever they were. And the video footage that was being taken was originally showing this group, because basically the Black Hebrew Israelites is a group that is a very radical sub-Christian sect. They're very religious, but they go out to a lot of protests when demonstrations are happening. They're out in public, and they just sit there and they engage people in just, they'll say very racist things like how white people are bad and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, it's pretty bad, right? And they go in, and some of the stuff, it's like, yeah, you should probably look it up, because it's like, that's kind of interesting. But they tend to be very in your face. They're trying to get your goat. It's that kind of group. And so here comes the MAGA hat, kids, right? Like from this march. I don't know where the adults were in this situation, but they were standing off to the side, and this group, the Black Hebrew Israelites, decided to engage with them and make fun of them and mock them and ridicule them and everything. And of course, these kids, being young and naive, came over and started to engage and started to debate with them, right? And it just got really bad. And so then they were kind of said, well, go off to the side and just ignore them. They're just, and yet they still egg them on and everything. So the MAGA hat kids, right, started to act up and started to drum and started to do their own thing, started to do the I want to say the chant. I'm trying to think of the name. It released my mind, and started to be really kind of acting up, and they're trying to drown out this other group, this Black Hebrew Israelite group. And is like, you have the Native American group that had been doing their thing. They started to engage. They saw what the MAGA hit kids were doing and this energy. So they thought, okay, well, we're going to kind of calm down the energy. Let's engage. Let's, blah, blah, blah. And then that's where you got this, oh my God, look at this MAGA hat guy, like, disrespecting a Native American elder. And, it's a great shot. It's a money shot, right? It's like, wow, look at this. Ooh, look. It filled that narrative, right? But they just forgot about the Black Hebrew Israelites and their role in all of this. And except for Fox News, I mean, I hate Fox News, but they were saying, well, what about this other group over here? They were like doing this really horrible stuff, and they were saying really horrible things, and yet nobody. And I watched the entire thing, so I watched how it all played out. When those people aren't going to do that. They're going to see the photo. They're going to see the story attached to it. They're going to see snippets and cuts of the situation, but they're not going to see the entire picture. And that's how you get manipulated. If you don't know that by now, I don't know what to tell you. Just like be a little bit more savvy. It does take time. And a lot of people I know, I mean, I get caught into it too. When I first saw that image, I was offended. I was like, oh my God, I hate these Trumpsters, blah, blah, blah. I mean, my emotional self was really engaged. It was like, okay, these people are, because it fueled my narrative about Trump and about the right. And, and I mean, it got me where I was most vulnerable, instead of actually rationally going, what's really going on with this picture? And after I saw that, I realized, and I remembered, there's a lot more going on than when we're presented. And like, some of us may say, well, I already know that. But I'm like, do you? I mean, I still get caught into it. I still get caught into this gotcha stuff, this hyperbole, these messaging. And, we're fed this steady stream, and our lives are so either we're so disengaged from the news cycle, or so disengaged from what we have, and we've really isolated ourselves, I think, because it's gotten so crazy. Or we're going in our lives and we're trying to remain engaged and informed, that we don't have enough time to do it properly. So we're like I scroll through, but I'm trained, so I'm like, there's probably something more to that story. So I keeps me a little bit situationally aware, but I know that there's a lot of information, and it takes time. And most of us do not have the time nor the interest, because I get it. It's hard. It's hard to sit down and watch, like you're watching now, if you are watching now, an hour long plus conversation about really important issues of the day. I'm not trying to pander and do flashy content, because number one, I don't have time to do it. I know that as a communications major and everything, that we are trained to say, this is how we're supposed to do it. This is how you get engagement. And you're right. I probably should pander a little bit more to that in order to be able to invite more people into the conversation. But I can't, if people are not willing to take the time to do something like having a normal conversation with somebody drinking their coffee in their bathrobe on a YouTube channel with no flashy graphics or whatever, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. We have to do what we do. I'm a very slow person. I don't do things on a dime. I'm not real flashy, or, I'm getting older. It takes me a lot longer to do stuff. And so I have to do what I can do within the context of the time that I have. I have ADHD. Um, there's a whole bunch of issues. So I get it. I know that your time is precious. My time is precious. I do these things in the morning because that's when my brain is most activated. I have a lot of time to think about stuff. So, and people are like, well, why are you bothering to do this at all? And I was like, because I want to add my voice to the course. And you go, well, is it really narcissistic that I just want to sit there and contribute? I would love to be able to have a discussion group, or, like the way 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago, people used to go to these things called salons. Now, a few years ago, like 20 years ago, I actually participated in a salon, and it's not a hair salon. It's it's a salon is a place where people gather and they talk about things of the day, right? And so this salon was really great. It was in a mansion in this old neighborhood in Cincinnati, and it was on a Monday night, and people would bring food. It was potluck, so you brought a contribution to the thing. We sat in this grand dining room on this big long table. It was like, one of the typical old-fashioned tables, and there'd be like 20 of us, 30 of us, maybe, I think, even maybe 25. I don't remember how many people. Mostly older people that probably were retired, didn't have, or towards the end of the thing, a lot of boomers. Okay. Not too many young people. I was one of the younger people in my 30s. And we would just talk about issues of the day. And it was a very liberal salon. It was, we would invite local politicians. There was actually, I think, someone who was running for the state attorney general actually came and sat and had a meal with me, or me, with us. And it was interesting. I mean, I really, really, and she changed the day and I could no longer do it. And I was really disappointed. And this was during the time that we were in the war, and it was the early days of the war. So the concern about censorship and about the government, like arresting people. I mean, that was really, looking back on that, how crazy that was during the early 200s after 9/11. And people on they were like, "Oh my God, they're spying on us," and which they were. I mean, the government was actually spying on people. And so I remember the Great Lakes, that people would say, "Oh, well, don't put my real name," because the woman who facilitated this would take kind of badly transcribed notes. Like she just, kind of like a thing. She'd just be typing kind of general thoughts and everything. But she's like, well, if you don't want your real name put, because she would share the notes to a larger newsletter so people kind of knew what we were talking about. And a lot of people were like, yeah, don't put my name. And I was very, very outspoken at that time. I was very, very outspoken. And I had a couple of people from the group going, aren't you scared that you're putting your name in out there? I'm like, I don't have kids. I, you gotta put your voice to the conversation. And I really miss that salon. And I think that food and conversation can be really good. And we need to learn how to do that again. We really do. It's a skill. It's something that you have to consciously work on. And with the pandemic and shutting everything down, um, it, I think, really put the kibosh even more so. I was really hoping right before the salon, I was actually thinking about having these discussion groups because of the whole, divisive political thing with the Trumpsters and everything, and like teaching people. You have to teach people how to do this. You have to have moderators that are rational. I hate the moderators on Facebook because they're so gatekeepy, and it doesn't really provide the really necessary, like we all know, doing written communication is not the same as having verbal communication. So even having a Zoom gathering is better than if it's done well. But ultimately, it's best to do these things in person where you can break bread with each other and you can have these conversations with each other. But you have to know what you're doing, and you have to basically we can't keep speaking to our own choir. We can't keep preaching to our own choir. We need to start inviting people in from across the aisle, from different walks of life, and not limiting. I know that people's time is precious, but what is more precious? Our so-called time, or the time that we take to learn how to have conversations with people again, how the time to actually have rational conversation, how to have rational, calm, interesting, informative conversation, limited by, oh, well, we have an hour and a half or an hour, and then we got to go home and do our stuff. We do that and we complain that our society is so broken down. Well, other cultures, they gear a lot of stuff around food, and they get together and they have ways of communicating and connecting with each other. We need to find ways to be able to do that again. And we need to make that a priority in our life. And I'm just very concerned because I hear so many people, especially young people, they're like, I'm just happy being alone in my apartment and whatever. Like, I don't want to talk to people because I hate people. And I find myself saying, I hate people. I hate people. But I know my intelligent mind is like, that's not good. It's not good. I mean, we all like to be safe and cozy in our own little houses and our own little rooms. We're not having to deal with the other people. But then we complain and we get even more isolated because we're not we're divisive. People are going crazy. People are running around, and our politics are so exhausting. I get it. I get it. And it's like, but we have to make a conscious effort to try and combat this. And it is going to take you longer than an hour at a polite, little potluck. You're going to have to do a 3 hour, just have something with no a thing. Like we always say, oh, well, we're not talking politics. I'm not talking politics. So you do have to have an event where there are parameters and guides and ground rules, you know. You have to make it so there are, it's safe for people with differing points of view to share their points of view without feeling attacked. um, And I've thought about this for years, and I don't know what the best structure is. I've seen people and we do a talking stick and doing all these like other techniques and stuff. But a lot of times they are, oh, we've got once a month we can do this little 1.5 hour potluck, and maybe we'll have a speaker, and maybe we'll have this. I don't think it can be that limited. I think this has to be at least a weekly thing in your community. Okay. It has to be a weekly commitment. And I think there should be food involved, because food is always the no alcohol, just food. I don't know. Rational alcohol. I don't know. That's up to you. I mean, because I remember at the salon, we would always bring bottles of wine. We'd have wine. It kind of loosens people up a little bit. Just don't go overboard with that. Um, and just make it a a weekly thing. Make it part of your culture. Make it part of your community. It can't just be like a book club. Oh, we just meet once a month and da 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 da. That's nice, but you know, I don't know. I mean, because it's like, well, what about kids? And I got to take the kids to here, and I'm like thinking, that's fine, but again, we've been doing this. We've been focusing on, oh my God, I got to get my kids to soccer practice. And we're so insular about these other, like, well, I've got my family and I've got all these other things that I'd rather be doing than talking with these people over there that I don't like. And then we complain about the fact that the world is crazy and breaking up. So we do need to really take a hard look at how we're coming together, why we're not able to talk to each other anymore. Why is our society so divisive? We're so divided. We're so it's just insane. We're so tribal, and it's like, this is going to be a disaster, people. It's already a disaster. So you need to say, is taking my kid to soccer practice or whatever more important than me rebuilding the connections I have with my community? you know Taking the time to do something in a way that it's an investment. It's an investment, but it's a critical investment. And so that is my call to you. Um, if you see this video, share your ideas below about if you've had any luck with this, if you have any ideas, um, how to come together. I used to be involved in a pagan community, and it was great. And we were very, at times we could be very politically active. We were, even during the whole 2000 scare, we actually had a phone tree, because this is before social media really. I think it was even before Facebook, actually. And well, and that wouldn't have helped us anyway after the 2000, but we were like trying to connect with each other and make sure that, okay, well, this family over here has got these resources and this family over here. So we were all trying to come together as a community to be able to see, if something happened, we would know where we could get support, right? And we would get together and we would have festivals and pagan stuff, and it was fun, and it was a real community. It was really interesting. I won't go into the details of why that just kind of just went away. It's another story for another time, but anyway, but it was really nice. And I know that some of those people are still trying to do that. And we had drumming and music, we had a big bonfire, and we would dance around the bonfire and have music, and it was just great. And I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to invest every single week or every 2 weeks to serious, hard political discussions or social discussions, but having that way to invite people in a way that would promote good conversation and kind of check in with each other about, hey, this is like, for instance, I'm actually going to be working my local election again. I was invited, I was called, begged actually, to work the election in my community because they had to have a bipartisan team. Okay, we're very bipartisan in the United States. So everything in our election offices has to be bipartisan. So Democrat and Republican. I don't know what they do with the independents. But anyway, it's Democrat, Republican. So they can't even open a door. There's 2 locks on the doors of the election offices where you have to have 2 people from either party enter a door. That's how it's handled in Ohio. I don't know how it's handled in any other state. But I went to this thing and people were very cordial. We knew, hi, you're the Republican, I'm the Democrat. I'm not technically a Democrat, but for all intents and purposes, that's who I vote for. So I'm a Democrat, right? And I got to know people in my neighborhood. And I know that most of the people I live around are very, very conservative. I know that they voted for Trump. But I was surprised that there was a few people who were actually Democrat. Like, really, you're Democrat? Like, oh my God. Like, I remember during the 2020 election, there was one house. There was a couple of houses. There was one house that was brave enough to put a yard sign on the main drag, right? That was for Biden, right? And then there was another house that was even braver, and it said "F you, Trump." I was like, I actually wrote a postcard to them saying, "Oh my God, thank you. I felt so isolated and alone," because I reached out to them and I said, "Oh my God, I don't feel so alone." But with this whole working this election, I have gotten, not that I'm socializing with them, but it was very civil. It helped me to see a different side of people who were willing to commit to civil engagement with each other, even though we know that we have different opinions about things. And we're not allowed to talk politics, right? We did a little bit, but because it just would have been a distraction. We're there to do a job to run the election. But it was encouraging because I think that we do get very insulated and we go, oh my God, they're the devil over there. And we've got to stop doing that because it's not going to help us in our society. So I think calling out to people to really, really think about how to rebuild this again. I know it's hard. I know that there are challenges. I know that that's an idealistic call that I am asking people to do, but I think it's critical. I mean, is your child's soccer practice really more important than actually having a civil thing before we end up breaking down into a civil war? Just a thought. Just a thought. You know, um, and I just don't know. I mean, I there's certain issues. As I said, I'm liberal. There are certain issues that are on the left side that I have questions about. I'm like, and I don't fit in with the, I'm not really fitting in with fellow liberals because I'm questioning these things, such as I have questions and concerns about some transgender issues. I have questions about, I have questions and concerns about certain COVID related questions. And that has really alienated me from a lot of people on the left, which is very sad because, again, we talk about being critical thinkers, and that we want to be, pro science and pro scientific method and really using our brains. And honestly, I'm not seeing it on the left. I'm like, oh, ouch. Okay, I got an issue with that. Um, And so, and then I see the rise of the crazies on the far right, and it's like, "Ooh, okay, wow." Yeah, it's a very scary time. It's a very, very scary time. So, um, that's primarily, I'm going to really try and keep this at 35 minutes, but that's my call to you. Go out, think about how we can become more engaged and really have better conversations and heal the divide in our country and elsewhere in the world, whether you're in Canada or wherever, because we need to do this. It's more important than, I'm sorry, it's more important than your kids' soccer practice, in my view. And I think we need to be teaching and modeling this for our children. We're not teaching and modeling this for our children. The adults are some of the worst behaved people, and our kids are watching how the adults in the room are acting, and they are going to carry that forward. So I think that this is a more important project than your kids' soccer practice. Is your kid ever going to go on to World Cup soccer? It's great to get them out and healthy. I think taking a hike is better, though, quite frankly. But it's like, have your priorities. Quit pushing your child to get into that overpriced, expensive Ivy League school, and have them actually be engaged and informed in handling their own community and solving real world problems, instead of, you know, trying to push them into some overpriced Ivy League school and trying to train them to be World Cup soccer people. Just a thought. Sorry if that offends anybody. I don't really care, because I'm just tired of this stuff and we need to do something now. So, with that, I will end, and I hope you all have a good weekend. Thanks. Stay safe.